Hello, and welcome to episode 39 of the Sonic Board podcast. I'm your host, DeoxysPrime, and joining me on this edition of the podcast, we got Frank.
Hey, guys.
We got Matt.
Hello.
We got Kenny.
Why am I here?
And we got Funk.
Episode 39. Nice.
Well, Kenny, Let me tell you why you're here and why we're all here. This is our annual Games of the Year podcast, where we talk about the games that we played during the course of the year. Simple, right?
Who's Kringle?
Can you go over that again? That was a little too much for me.
You say who's Kringling?
Who's crinkling? Someone's crinkling something. I don't like it.
Frank, is this like a diaper fetish thing for you?
No answer from Frank.
I just don't know what to say to that.
Can I ask when was the last time I was actually on the Sonic Board podcast?
The Pokemon we did like 2 weeks ago.
I thought that was just like a different. Never mind.
No, that was the Sonic Board podcast. You fuck.
We need to rebrand this podcast at some point, but they're all. If it's not the anime podcast, it's the Sonic Board podcast. So that's your tell.
Okay.
The Lucky Cast.
Yes. So.
Which would make this the Unlucky Cast.
No, this one's always lucky. You guys are lucky because we get to talk about games, and I know you love video games.
I have recently come to love video game.
A video game. Just one.
Oh my god.
So the way we're going to do this is, we're not specifically just like going to be making lists here. Like at the end, I'm going to ask everyone what their favorite game of the year was, but we're specifically going to just talk about the games we played, and we're going to do it in chronological order, as the games came out this year. So I have a list of games here, and everyone kind of has stuff they want to talk about. And there are some games on the list that we've all kind of played, more or less, except for Kenny.
Hence why am I here?
Well, you're here to pretty much talk about one game, I guess. Plus, like, you know, you're like our mascot, moral support, so we always like to have you on.
Whatever. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So first game on our list is Kingdom Hearts 3, which I think only Frank played.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm the only one here that actually played it.
Make it quick.
I mean, I can make it really quick because
it's only been like a 12-year wait, right? You can blow through this.
Well, you know, you say that, but like the other games in the franchise are really important because like Birth by Sleep and 358 over 2 and Dream Drop Distance like play a quote unquote critical role in the plot, which is really frustrating to me because like I really think that Kingdom Hearts 2 ended a lot of the character arcs that were present in the Kingdom Hearts franchise prior to that point, and the characters that they introduced in those spin-off games now needed to have a forced resolution in this one, requiring the resolutions that were in Kingdom Hearts 2 to kind of be undone. So the story in this game is a bit of a mess because it's like, we need to get Terra's body back from Xehanort, and Ven is still sleeping in the Land of Departure, which is now Castle Oblivion from Chain of Memories. And like, there's so much convolution that's going on here for no apparent reason whatsoever. And
you know, you're talking about Kingdom Hearts, right? Like the series that has always been like that.
Kingdom Hearts 1 isn't though. Like Kingdom Hearts 1 is a very focused story about coming of age, and like the reason why like the Disney characters are present in there are because it's sort of like, those childhood sort of emblematic figures are always going to like follow you as you progress into the unknown and like realize adulthood.
Why are the Final Fantasy characters there though?
Didn't the series start because like one of the guys, like one of the Final Fantasy people and like someone from Disney were like in an elevator and are like, yo dude, what if we did this?
Yeah, it was one of those like crazy elevator pitch sort of situations that just ended up getting really out of control. Speaking of Final Fantasy characters, there are absolutely none of them present in Kingdom Hearts 3 at all, much to the chagrin of a lot of fans of the series, because like characters from Final Fantasy have always been sort of a staple, and even in Dream Drop Distance, like there weren't any Final Fantasy characters per se, but they included characters from The World Ends With You, which is another franchise that was made by Nomura.
Wasn't there something at the end that like implied a possible sequel to The World Ends With You?
The thing with World Ends With You, I don't want to get too far off track, but World Ends With You, the DS version is very clean, has a clean ending. They re-released
it's simple.
Yeah. They re-released a version on iOS that had a sequel hook at the end that had a new character, and it said like new 7 days. And that was in like 2011, I think. And then Final Remix, which is the version that just came out on the Switch, expanded a little further on that sequel hook, but we still haven't gotten anything concrete as to whether or not there's going to be a second one. But, spoilers for Kingdom Hearts 3, Sora, quote-unquote, dies at the end, and in the secret ending, he wakes up in the middle of the Scramble Crossing, and he looks up and he sees the 107 building, which is unique to the Shibuya in World Ends With You. So there might be some interplay going on there. Also interesting is that Nomura is sort of being a little petty regarding what happened with his whole Versus 13 situation, because he was ousted from Versus 13 to work on Kingdom Hearts 3 and then later Final Fantasy 7 Remake, while Tabata took like basically the lifeless husk of what was going to be Final Fantasy Versus 13 and turned it into Final Fantasy 15, which is a game that has gotten quite a mixed reception from fans. But now in Kingdom Hearts 3, he introduced this character called Yozora, who is part of this like video game within a video game called Verum Rex, which translates to like True King or whatever. And also in the secret ending, Riku finds himself inside the world of Verum Rex, which looks very similar to the beta concept that was present in Versus 13, and Yozora is there. And Yozora bears a passing resemblance to Noctis, the main character of both Versus 13 and Final Fantasy 15. So there's going to be some crazy interplay going on there, which is kind of why I'm interested in seeing what's going on from here, because Kingdom Hearts 3 was not a good game. The gameplay was really dumbed down from what it was in Kingdom Hearts 2.
Yeah, but Frank, it had Toy Story in it.
It did have Toy Story in it.
Doesn't Woody like blow somebody the fuck out?
He sure does. This is the only thing I know about that game.
Yeah, he does. And Toy Story and Monsters, Inc., the two Pixar worlds, are the only two of them that feel like they actually like have heart because they're sequels to the original source property, rather than the other ones where it's just Sora that's going through the events of the movie. Like Tangled is basically beat for beat, like this is everything that happens in Tangled the movie. It's just that, like, oh, Sora, Donald, and Goofy are here. Frozen especially, because in Frozen, it's like Elsa is out here singing Let It Go, while Sora, Donald, and Goofy are, like, in the background watching her sing. And there's a whole sequence that's just dedicated, like, to remaking that sequence in Unreal Engine 4, like, the biggest waste of fucking time.
I have played some of Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 fucking years ago. I don't remember anything. But, I just remember them being... Usually, aren't they a little bit more than just, like, oh, here's the Disney movie, only these three are here for some reason?
Yeah, in almost all cases, it's, like... Maybe it's like an aside that's like this is happening like in the middle of the movie, and you know, like there's a conflict that's going on in the movie. Like they fight like Ursula like on the boat like at the end of the movie, rather than it's like, oh, they're going through the events of the Little Mermaid and they just happen to like, you know, be there on the boat when Ursula turns into the giant thing, and it's like
Tad
they
walks in.
save the day. Like it's. Like they very successfully integrate, in most cases, Nightmare Before Christmas. And this is the first Kingdom Hearts game, like mainline Kingdom Hearts game, to not include Nightmare Before Christmas, which is kind of interesting.
I do remember that.
It's amazing because you would think that, you know, the obnoxious fan base that movie has would overlap pretty well with the kind of person who would buy Kingdom Hearts.
Well, in this one, they kind of replaced it with Monsters, Inc., which also is good because the Monsters, Inc. one is a sequel to the original story in that, where it's like, oh, they're in the factory, they've replaced the scare energy with the laugh energy. But this character Vanitas comes in, and Vanitas realizes that it used to run on scare energy, and he teams up with Randall, the bad guy from the first movie, or one of the bad guys from the first movie, rather, to sort of like re-implement the scream energy. And it's interesting. Like takes like that genuinely work. Whereas
Big scream energy.
What?
What?
Yes, big. What did you say? Whatever. Whatever. So, long story short, Kingdom Hearts 3, the new DLC is coming out really soon. That's adding Final Fantasy characters. It's basically giving us an expansion of the story in the same way that like the Final Mix games did in the past, where it's like, you know, oh, you know, we can get away with selling you the same game again just with extra shit in it. Whereas now it's actually like DLC, but there's still no excuse because this is stuff that should have been in the base game. But I guess they couldn't delay it for another fucking year, so that's the way they're pulling one over on it. So I'm interested in seeing, especially the shit with Shibuya and Varum Rex, and how that's going to play into the inevitable new Kingdom Hearts game that's going to come before Kingdom Hearts 4. Because he said there's going to be another one that has like a subtitle before he actually does the next numbered entry into the series. Even though Sora dies at the end of fucking Kingdom Hearts 3, so it's like, it's a mess. It's a mess. Kingdom Hearts is a mess. It has been a mess since like Kingdom Hearts 358 over 2.
Wasn't it already a mess at Kingdom Hearts 2?
I mean, Kingdom Hearts 2, like it's only messy to people who didn't play Chain of Memories, I think, is the problem. Because like
those fucking plebes.
Yeah, the problem is like, oh, you know, there's only one game between Kingdom Hearts and Kingdom Hearts 2, so I can just jump in here, right? But like, Chain of Memories has some pretty critical information that if you don't have it, you're not gonna know what the fuck is going on with the Nobodies or Organization 13 or like any of that shit.
All I know is like Kingdom Hearts 2 is the one that has like I don't know how long it is. It's like an 8-hour like intro.
Yeah,
that's just Roxas, and it's like so fucking long.
Yeah, on your first playthrough, that
like
will
I remember
take you around like 4 hours. Like 4
I remember
10.
that. I remember the Beauty and the Beast portion. I think because like that was as far as I got before I stopped playing.
Gotcha.
And
you got like about midway through, probably.
I got like the revisit to the Beauty and the Beast part.
Yeah.
And then there was I remember Water Dance guy.
Okay.
I remember that guy.
Water Dance.
And I remember he was like the big bullshit boss in that game. And
yeah,
I remember
he was the plebe filter.
And I remember the part where you have to just fight like an army of 1,000 nobodies. Is that what they're called?
Yeah, the
Heartless. Heartless.
Yeah.
You have to fight like 1,000 Heartless, and there's like a counter.
Right.
That's
this
all I remember from that game.
This game
somehow
I
don't remember the death of Goofy.
Yeah, that happened right before the Battle of 1,000 Heartless.
Goopy.
Death to Goopy.
They'll pay for this.
But this game has like these like attraction things where it's like, oh, it'll just interrupt the gameplay at many intervals, so you can summon like the train
special moves, right?
Yeah, well, there are special moves that like kind of take the place of reaction commands from Kingdom Hearts 2, but they're done in a significantly more intrusive way. So it's like you'll be fighting, and then it'll give you a prompt to press triangle, and then it'll summon like Buzz Lightyear's like space blaster or whatever, and like you'll be in like a little like cart that has a gun on it, and you have to like shoot enemies and keep bouncing them in the air, or you'll go on like like Rolling Thunder Mountain or whatever, and it'll be like a train, and the train will be like flying above the enemies, and you have to like shoot them with fireworks from the smokestack of the train, and like they're basically just big cutscenes that happen like in the middle of gameplay, and it's very obtrusive.
I watched some people stream this game when it first came out because there's a lot of hype around it being finally Kingdom Hearts 3. And watching some of the battles, it was just endless uses of those kind of moves, and it was so obnoxious looking. Like everything would grind to a halt for like 7 seconds when you watch this cutscene.
Right.
Then your controls were limited when you enter that attack, and it didn't look fun at all.
And and on top of that, there's also like for every keyblade that you use, there are like form changes for the keyblade that allow you to like turn it into different weapons. Like one of them lets you turn it into like a big hammer, like for the Toy Story one, or one of them lets you turn it into like twin pistols that you wield and shit. And that's also obtrusive. But you can turn those off now, and like they added an update later that lets you like play without them because I guess they realize that it's super obtrusive. And they also added a critical difficulty because a lot of people were complaining that it's too easy with those attractions. So I haven't played critical mode myself. It seems more like it's just things hit harder and you have less health rather than it actually being like, we're implementing harder patterns, or like it just turns it into more of a grind, it seems like, which is the worst way to do additional difficulty settings in my opinion. But I don't know,
basically just not as good as you were hoping it would be.
Well, I mean, I liked Birth by Sleep a lot. I thought that it was probably the best Kingdom Hearts game that I had played. I wasn't a fan of Dream Drop Distance, and then this game seemed to be like sort of a mix between like Kingdom Hearts 2's structure of battle and the command deck system from Birth by Sleep that was later sort of made shitty in Dream Drop Distance. So I was hoping to get a happy medium with that, but like they took out all of the depth that Kingdom Hearts 2's combat had, which makes sense because like the battle director who was doing Kingdom Hearts 2 is doing gameplay instead for Final Fantasy VII Remake, and that game's battle system looks fucking amazing. So we'll see how that goes in March. I'm really excited to play that game, but we'll see.
All right. So.
All right.
Well, before we end the Kingdom Hearts topic, I love the fact that the official strongest character in the Final Fantasy universe is Donald Duck.
Yeah, he uses like Zeta Flare in this one.
He uses Zeta Flare, which apparently is a move that before this game was only used by like essentially like elder gods or something.
Yeah. It's fucking stupid.
So there you go. He is like, what was he's like, it's like so many times more powerful than
Mega Flare?
Mega Flare.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is. Donald is officially like 1,000,000 times stronger than Bahamut.
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. We'll get to Final Fantasy talk later. Don't you worry.
Oh boy.
Oh, can't wait.
Kenny,
What?
do you want to talk about Resident Evil 2 Remake?
No.
You're the only one that played it here, so.
It was on the list?
Well, I put it on the list because you're here.
I'm
You're the only
adding
one
it
who
to the
played it.
list.
It's not on the list.
Well, it's on the metaphorical list, so just talk about it.
It's hard as fuck, and it's scary as shit. And I only beat part A, so yeah.
Now, did you play as Leo or Claire?
I was Leo.
Alright.
As in Leonardo DiCaprio. That was
He's
terrible.
not in that game.
Please edit that out.
Oh, no, that's staying in.
No, it's still a work in progress.
So, but overall, just a very faithful remake, right?
It is a faithful remake, but it's fucking it's fucking difficult. Like, man, like the original was easier than this one, like by far. Even with like that fixed camera bullshit.
Can you call it bullshit if it was fixed?
Why? I'm just gonna.
It's a shame all those fucking playthroughs of Resident Evil 5 with Dim didn't prepare you enough for this game.
Well, I have like a partner with that. Like you're by yourself.
So you get carried by Dim, basically.
So what?
You're getting carried by Dim.
No, I'm not getting carried by Dim. You want to bring him fucking in here and tell like ask him?
No, it's okay.
Yes. So Kenny, my only experience of this game was watching you stream it, and I'm sad that your budding career as a streamer has not taken off. But I think I speak for everybody when I say I would watch more Kenny streams.
They just need to release more Sonic 3 and Knuckles games, and he'll stream those.
Nobody's joking, Kenny. We all liked your stream.
Yeah.
Everybody liked it.
Yeah, sure you did.
It's cozy.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I get for complimenting you.
Are you gonna buy Resi 3 remake when it comes out?
What the fuck do you think, Steve?
No.
No?
Yes.
Okay. Kenny. I'm just trying to involve you because you're here on the podcast.
I know, and I enjoyed our 30-minute conversation about fucking Kingdom Hearts, and about how Disney characters are being killed off.
Don't worry, Kenny. They come back.
They come. Oh, okay.
Kenny, it's just wishful thinking on your part.
No, I wish they were dead.
Death has no meaning in the Kingdom Hearts universe.
I have no idea what the fucking game's about anyway, so I don't really give a shit.
No one does, Kenny. That's okay.
Okay, yeah, that's perfectly fine. Any other questions about Resident Evil that you would like to know?
So, who was Nemesis?
Who was Nemesis? You're serious?
You're gonna spoil Resident Evil 3 for him.
He's in the... He watched me stream the goddamn game.
I got to this one part where this guy was holding a kid at gunpoint. Maybe he shot her. Oh, I don't really remember. You ever saved that kid?
No, I let them die. I'm just gonna say that because I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about.
Well, Kenny, I guess you're the real Heartless.
Are you talking about the girl?
Really, nothing.
Oh my god. Are you talking about the little girl that there's a brief moment where you actually can play as her?
Maybe. Kenny was in a parking garage and some old security guard.
Yeah. Yeah, she comes.
It's a story thing, I think.
She comes. Yeah, she comes in later.
Nice. Kenny didn't kill her.
No.
Liar.
All that matters is Kenny had fun.
No, because Kenny has a heart.
Kenny has a heart.
No, she's my 3,000.
Okay, Kenny.
Andre 3000?
How do we?
Sorry. I'm sorry.
You can't. You guys can't just apologize for every bad joke, or we're gonna be here all night.
We can move on now.
We can.
Okay. To whatever other bullshit.
It's my turn. Actually, it's my turn to talk about A Tale of Two Battle Royale games.
Oh boy.
That came out literally within a week of each other.
Well, I know one of them. What the hell's the other one?
We'll talk about it. So the first one is Apex Legends, a game that literally came out of nowhere. Because they announced it the same day it came out. It leaked a few days ahead of it, but this is totally a surprise thing. And I would not have bought this game, but it was free to play, so I was like, okay, I'll just check it out. Unfortunately, it's a really good free to play game in that I have no incentive to spend any money on this game because the cosmetics and shit are all trash. But the game itself, it was actually fun because it's a game based on Titanfall 2, which is a really fun shooter. And this game basically took every problem I had with Battle Royale games and completely addressed those problems and fixed them. And I was very surprised at that. So it's, my biggest problem whenever we play Fortnite and shit is boy, I'm having fun, but then I die at the start of the game, and then I have to fucking watch Colin walk around for 20 minutes because he broke off from the rest of the group, and I can't play the video game because I'm dead.
Somebody ping Colin.
Basically. and Apex was like, okay, well, people don't like that. We're going to put in a respawn system. And, it's sometimes difficult to communicate with your teammates, where things are. So we're going to put in this really advanced pinging system that, you can point out enemies, you can point out objects, you can point out, let's go this way, let's go that way. Really in-depth stuff. All this stuff was missing for Fortnite, which they later then copied from Apex, because that's how good it was. They also had this thing where it's okay, We don't all have to coordinate our fucking jump off the ship at the start. One person jumps and everyone just automatically follows them. It's like really, really smart stuff that kind of streamlined these kind of games in a way that like appealed to me. Whereas I just, Fortnite's fun in like very small doses and only if I'm playing with you guys. But otherwise, they don't bother. But this
not against bots.
Not against bots. but Apex was actually fun for like I played it for like a solid month, and I did eventually hit the problem and I think it's kind of endemic to battle royales for me. It's like there's not much to it. Like if you play one game, they're all kind of the same. Like they all kind of go the same way, right? So like I just kind of burned out after a month, and then I went back later this year, like a few months ago when they had a big update and stuff. They put in like a new map, and there was a bunch of new characters by then. And I had fun with it again. So it's like it's a game I'm gonna play on and off. Like typically, if there's a big update, I'll go check it out again. But I really enjoyed my time. Like it was nice that like they had not only had like a battle royale that was a good shooter, because Fortnite shooting mechanics are fucking garbage. But it also had like movement options. Like you're not fucking just running around slowly. They added like Overwatch style abilities, but also they weren't like overpowered like Overwatches are. Like they're much more subtle. Like it's a game that's still very reliant on you being good at shooting, which I'm not, which is why I struggled most of the time in Apex. But they add enough little things around the edges that make it just really fun to play. So I wish I could have got other people to jump in on this with me, because like it is a game that forces you to play with groups. Like
we played a little bit of it.
We played it one time.
No, we played it like twice.
We played it once. I played it once with you, and I played once with Colin, and then
you didn't ask me.
I did ask you, and you said you downloaded it, and then we just never played it.
Well, God damn it! Why don't you remind me?
Kenny.
But yeah, it was just.
It's always Kenny's fault.
Kind of is, but no, it was just a fun experience. I was not expecting.
Who was laughing?
What?
Okay,
no one said anything.
Okay, Steve.
Apex Legends was fun.
It was okay. It was part of the reason I like games like Fortnite is
question mark.
Well, I didn't. It just occurred to me. I was about to say I like Fortnite. It's like, oh, I guess I do.
I like the experience of playing Fortnite with you guys, but not the game itself.
Well, I like how simple they are to play, and Apex is like gradually approaching a real game, which I don't really feel like putting that kind of effort or commitment into. So I don't know. I kind of have it as a crossroads. I don't want to learn its systems. I don't want to get good at it. I just don't want to think. So I'm gonna turn my brain off.
You want to have fun?
Not really. But
what the fuck? You play the game?
That's why I play whenever I do play Fortnite, which is pretty regularly, once every 2 or 3 months. I'm terrible at it, and I never do well, but I also don't really have to think about anything. But I feel like with Apex, it's harder to do that because it feels like a game I should be able to play. Whereas it's a foregone conclusion. I'm never going to learn how to build autistically in Fortnite. But Apex, I'm just like, I could put in the effort to this, but I don't want to.
That's a shame I get where you're coming from.
It looks like garbage. I hate the art style.
What, Apex?
I hate it. Yes.
The character design is bad, but I think the game overall looks good.
That's it.
I like the world design of it. The only thing I really don't like about it is just the characters. The characters are fucking lame. But I also guess like I'm tired of the really like stupid cartoonish design of Fortnite. Like it's a bit too much.
I really like that part of Fortnite. Don't end me.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay, well then let's talk about what was even a better Battle Royale game.
Yes.
Which is Tetris 99.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
I'm excited to talk about Tetris 99.
The call comes alive at mention
as
of
a big
Tetris.
Tetris buff,
Yeah. Also a game that came out of nowhere. Also a game that was free to play. Well, free in quotation marks if you had a Nintendo Online subscription. But yeah, like this Tetris game actually like there was a big one last year, like Tetris Effect, that I didn't get into because it was like $50. I was like, I'm not paying $50 for Tetris. But I just liked how like simple this was. It's pure Tetris, but also just with the added gimmick of playing against 99 other people at the same time.
Steve,
And what's up?
play Tetris Effect. It's really good.
I mean, I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is, but I think this style of Tetris appeals to me more because it's always just a fun game to just pick up and play for like 15 minutes or so. Like I've put like 50, 60 hours over the course of this year just in Tetris 99 because like if I'm bored for like 15 minutes or so, I just pick up the game, play a couple rounds, and it's just really fun. And like Tetris multiplayer in general, like I remember like in high school playing the Game Boy game with a link cable against one of my friends at lunch. Like that's how far back it goes.
Okay, boomer.
God.
I can't even deny that, but you know, just it's nice to have a Tetris game like that, right? Because Tetris is always there; it's always the same. It's never really going to change. They've made tweaks and stuff to the formula over the years, but it's like pure and simple Tetris is still just really good. So just to have a game like this that was just free, I didn't have to make a commitment to it, but also just like it kind of just sucked me in because of how good it is.
What you're saying is sucked? So, I think I really like this game as well. I don't know what a T-spin is, but I do enjoy Tetris. And let me pose a question. Raise your hand if you've ever won a game of Tetris 99.
Me, multiple times.
Yeah,
I am
not raising my hand.
I've gotten second and third a couple times.
It took me a while. It did take me a while, but like every now and then I'll win a game.
I can get to like the top three, but then like I could just never beat that last guy who's like doing like 50 T-spins in a row.
So here's my beef with Tetris 99 as someone who's very experienced with Tetris and
The Puzzle
has
Master
bought
Frank.
like 7 copies of Puyo Puyo Tetris.
You know I've been
Puyo
waiting
over
for this
here.
one.
It's fun as like a mindless sort of like, oh wow, like this is a very novel concept. You're playing Tetris with 100 people at once. It is very hard for me to say whether or not winning Tetris 99 is actually based on your relative skill level or whether it's based on playing around the fact that you have to work.
It can be pure luck.
I mean, it's not,
Yeah.
but also like did you get where Frank's coming on? Because like people are really good at Tetris 99. I remember like watching streams of it back when the game came out. Like they would just win game after game after game.
But that's because they're exploiting the way that the targeting system works rather than actually like making meaningful moves, doing like T-spin triples or doing like complex setups that require lots of garbage on the field. They're utilizing a quirk of the system, which is when you have multiple people targeting you, you send out a significantly higher amount of garbage than you normally would to compensate for the fact that multiple people are targeting you. And that enables them to rack up lots of KO badges, which gives them an edge because it increases their garbage output even more significantly by it starts off at like 25%. And then once you have 4 badges, then you get like a 100% boost in the amount of garbage you're sending out.
So who has a higher garbage output? Somebody who's consistently and targeted by very many people, or the Sonic Board podcast?
No, but like the way that it's frustrating because in one-on-one Tetris, you're kind of trying to exploit the way that garbage is being sent to you in a way that's meaningful because you can actually like keep track of it. Whereas you can't control exactly how many people are going to be targeting you at any given time. Your screen is going to your board on the sides of your play area the people who have higher, like, are reaching the top of the screen are going to have red outlines. So people are going to be more tempted to target them to try and knock them out and get a KO badge, but it's a detriment because they are now going to have a higher garbage output. So people will just camp getting the top of the screen, and once they have a significant enough amount of people that are targeting them, they'll go for either Tetrises or combos or whatever the case may be to maximize their garbage output, and then just knock out like 5 or 6 people at once. So it's like, if you really want to play around it, then you need to coordinate with the people around you, which is impossible because, as far as I know, there's no way of being in the same Tetris 99 match as like a friend, or like getting together to be in the same Tetris 99 lobby.
Yeah, but it's like you're like I think this is just different. Like it's you're sure different mechanics resulting in like having to play the game differently. But I don't think that inherently makes it better or worse. I mean,
it makes it more inherently luck based as to whether you win or lose, and less based on whether or not you're actually like making a significant amount of setup play.
Sure,
so, like,
but also like that's the way battle royales work.
I guess
battle royales are always kind of just
like if you drop in a game, like part of it is luck, like the loot you get. If you drop in a bad place with bad loot, you can get fucked over. Even the best players happen. So I think it's like when you're dealing with playing against that many players in this style of game, like I think that's going to kind of happen.
You can also just kind of, just like in any battle royale where you can just kind of like hide for the whole match and then just get a lucky kill at the end.
Yeah,
that's how I won my first game.
You can basically do that. You can basically do that in Tetris 99 if you just don't do anything other than just play the game.
Right.
Like you could still.
Yeah, if you stay inconspicuous, I mean, it's going to be hard at the end because you're going to be going up against people that have a lot of KO badges.
Right, that's the only thing.
It's so. I know that this is something that's kind of like a complaint that's unique to people who like play a significant amount of Tetris, like multiplayer outside of Tetris 99.
Mm-hmm.
But it just feels like I'm losing less because like the person that beat me is better than me, and more because they got lucky. They have a lot more KO badges than I managed to get because they use strategies that bait them getting more KO badges, and therefore their garbage output is just trumping mine to that high of a degree.
Tetris always has had some amount of variance in the pieces that you're given.
I mean, not necessarily.
No, it's actually predetermined.
Yeah,
really?
It's in a pseudo grab bag format where it's like that you're going to be getting like 7 pieces in a rotation, and you're going to get one of each piece before the next cycle starts. And that's why you can do setups that result in you getting like a perfect clear right away, or like they take advantage of the way that the output is going to go, which is why you get to see like 5 pieces in advance. And the best players, like, they'll spend pretty much the entire game looking at what's coming next and knowing.
Well, if that's true, explain to me why I never get the long eyepiece.
I mean, you probably will get it like just within 7 pieces. You know what I mean? Like
I don't though.
But not when you
like
need
10,
it the most.
10 without it. 10, 15, 20.
Sounds like a personal problem.
So I understand much better the argument you're putting forward, Frank, and I think you're right in the sense that like if you want like a pure one-on-one Tetris experience, like it's probably better for you than this. But I also think like because this is a different experience, you kind of have to give yourself over to what it's going for.
Yeah,
and, maybe that doesn't work for you, but I also just think like just accepting how this game works, I think can make it more enjoyable.
No, I know it's a lot of fun. It's just like the matches take a while to get to the top 10. And then once I'm there and I lose, I feel like I didn't lose because the person that beat me was a better Tetris player than I was. They just won because they, managed to have a better luck than me in terms of getting KO badges.
Yeah, that's why I think if you just think of it as a battle royale game, it works much better.
I mean,
which I think that specifically probably was their inspiration for making this game.
Of course. But like, and it's a lot of fun. Like, it convinced me to get Nintendo Online because I was very against getting it until they dropped Tetris 99, and I was like, oh shit, they probably made this game like specifically for me.
That was probably one of the best incentives they had. A lot better than the just here's some NES games.
Yeah,
nobody wants to play that we could just that literally anybody with a phone could just download.
It was a nice unexpected thing that came this year.
Yeah, there were 3 really good Tetris games that came out in this generation. Puyo Tetris is probably like the best one for doing multiplayer if you want like the pure Tetris experience.
That one was pretty fun.
Tetris Effect is a very single player experience, and it's meant to be experienced in VR probably. But even if like I don't have a PlayStation VR, but doing the effect modes with headphones on, it's made by the same people that made Luminous, which is another like sort of rhythmic puzzle game. And it's a lot of fun if you're just willing to like sit there in front of a screen for a little while and experience different kinds and settings of Tetris with different backgrounds and block patterns, and like it is a very enchanting game. I realize it's not worth 60. It's probably not even worth 50, but it's a lot of fun. I enjoy booting it up.
Because I know from my perspective, I just like having a Tetris game to play, and I did buy Puyo Puyo Tetris, but it's like for some reason I just like, even though you can just play Tetris in that, I just never got into it in that case. So I was glad this game came along to get me playing Tetris again.
Yeah, but Tetris Effect has a lot of really cool effect modes that were previously only in like Tetris Grandmaster in the arcades and stuff like that. And like there's one mode that was like exclusive to like a Card Captor Sakura version of Tetris or something that they managed to rework and bring it into Tetris Effect. So like the love that they have for it is pretty clear, and those modes are honestly a lot of fun just to like have a non-conventional version of it. But it's an entirely single player experience, and Tetris to me is something that I can really go either way. I've had just as much fun playing Tetris with friends as I've had playing Tetris just going on hours-long benders in marathon mode by myself.
It is cool that they found just ways to reinvent Tetris, despite the fact that it's a game that doesn't change much.
Yeah, I think it's a really, really like it goes a long way of showing like just how versatile Tetris can be.
Yeah.
And like I'm a big puzzle game guy, and I think we've been kind of going through a bit of a dearth of them recently. So seeing all of these ways that they're reinventing Tetris in the same way that they did it a little over 10 years ago when they dropped Tetris DS, and it had all of those really interesting and unique game modes to it as well. Like it makes you fall back in love with it. So,
Tetris is good.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
All right. Well, speaking of puzzle games, Funk.
Yes.
What is Baba?
Oh boy,
Baba. Well, I guess it's not you, Steve, because you didn't play the game.
Baba's a lot of things.
Yeah, Baba. Throughout his short yet remarkable life, Baba has been you, win, move, push, many things, Baba. So I really.
So what am I missing out on this game?
Yeah, Baba is You is a really, really just novel puzzle game that is kind of lives and dies on how appealing its core conceit is, pushing around different words to create and break rules of a given level. And it's a lot of fun. I played the game to completion. I 100%ed it. And it's very, very difficult at times. A little too difficult, I think.
It gets to the point where like certain puzzles are like, it's basically just like you kind of have to just fuck
know
around.
What to do.
It's almost like it doesn't really give you a good. Some of the harder puzzles don't really give you a good enough, like push your idea for what exactly you're supposed to do. You're just kind of thrown into this puzzle, and it's like I have no idea where to start, and you don't even necessarily know like what rules will actually, what certain rules and word combinations will actually do until you just experiment, which can get a little frustrating sometimes.
What I disliked were the amount of levels because early in the game, the best part of it is how open-ended some of the levels can be.
Mm-hmm.
Like in some of the first levels, it's like, okay, I'll make I'll make it so I can push the wall and thus get out of here, or I'll make it so I become the wall and thus I can just move all the walls. And they often have different solutions, and that was the most fun part of the game, just messing around with the words and creating different sentences and different rules. But towards the end of the game, you lose the ability to do that almost completely because there's only one solution that's going to work. And I realize it's a puzzle game. If you just give a bunch of possible solutions, it's not going to be very challenging. But it's a lot less fun just kind of fishing around for the one solution than it is to play an easier level that gives you more opportunities to be creative with your problem solving. That said, I still enjoyed the game all the way through the end. It's just, if the whole game had been designed like the latter half, I would be a lot less positive about it. But what I think another really good part of the game is how creative it is with its own systems. Like, you start on an overworld map, and then the overworld map soon becomes just another level with its own rules and words that you can push around. And it has a lot of outside the box thinking. One of the last parts of the game, you take an overworld full of different levels, and then the levels themselves become elements of a larger level that you can push around. So you'll enter a level, make a sentence that says like level is push, then you're kicked out of the level, and you can push that level around another puzzle. And it becomes a multi-layered puzzle that's just very, very difficult, but pretty satisfying to solve, if again, rigid in how you get to that solution. But I was really hoping that this game would have some kind of DLC or something, just additional content, which it really hasn't. It's gotten updates, but those are more so to fix problematic levels than to introduce new ones. There's a level editor coming, which will hopefully be pretty neat.
It's definitely going to cause a lot of very creative ideas. I've already seen some things that people have done with their own like fan-made level editing stuff. Like one where somebody basically just made used all the game's in-game rules to create Space Invaders or something in the game.
Super Baba Maker.
Yeah, basically, it's if you don't know what this game is, Steve.
Oh, I've seen it been played, but
yeah, basically it's all about, you have a bunch of words, you have nouns, you have
operands.
Yeah, what?
I don't know what the grammatical concept is called.
But
I only teach English for a living.
Yeah, you have but yeah, you have like nouns, you have
verbs,
adjectives, and you have is and
the other thing.
Yeah. Like anything, like there's certain words that are in a square, which basically means that they have to be at the end of a sentence.
Right, so you can't make something like push is you, because that doesn't really make any sense.
Right.
Push and you both always have to be at the end of the sentence.
You also...
So it's got its own rules for its own syntax, I should say.
Right. And there's a lot of there's tons of creativity in it. And I only got like the first ending of the game. Because this game is just like... This is some like high level... I guess I'm just too like fucking brainlet for this shit, because it gets really it just really starts to get challenging.
I mean, that's my issue with like these kind of puzzle games too. Is I eventually hit the point where it's like it's taken me so long to try and figure it out that I just cheat and look up the answers, and at that point it breaks the game.
And that's one thing I don't like about this game. I would really like this game, and I had the same problem Funk did, where it gets to the point where it's like, this is just frustrating. Everything that was fun about the earlier parts of the game isn't really fun anymore because it's not as open-ended, and you have to have a very specific sequence of things that you do in order to actually win. And this is one thing that actually I got reminded of this. There's in the commentary for the game Portal 2.
Is this about the testers?
Yes, this is about the testers. There's a part where they're talking about how they had this one puzzle room that was a little bit more open than the others, but because there are so many things happening at once that the player could see, it actually caused them to take way longer to finish the puzzle because it was like sensory overload. There was just too many things they could do, and they kept doing the wrong things, despite the fact that they just had to do this one thing first. And that's, I think, a big problem this game has in its later levels, where you have so many things happening on screen. You have all these different conditions that you can't even affect, that you can't push around, that you have no control over. And there's so many things happening that it kind of makes it so that you don't even know where to begin.
Right, because there's so much to think about.
It's just way too much to think about. Yeah. And it does make it a lot more frustrating.
Because you can make different sentences, of course, but another part of the levels is where those sentences kind of physically manifest in the game, because it's a tile-based game and they take up tiles. Mm-hmm. So where and how you construct your sentences is just as important as the sentence being constructed, like its meaning. So not only do you have to have the right idea on what rules you want to make, you have to make them in the correct place and in the correct order, because often certain words will have to serve a dual purpose. Like, for example, if you only have one instance of the word is, well, you can make two sentences of that by doing one horizontally and one vertically. So there's a lot to think about. And with only one possible solution in the later levels, it's very difficult to stumble upon them, and you have to become very adept at eliminating certain possibilities based on not obtuse, but like pretty thoroughly developed lines of thought. Like, if I do this, then this will happen, and then this, but because of that, I can't do this, and I need to do that. So, all right, that's not going to work.
There are also some moments in the game that are just straight up like bullshit. Like
there's one level. Do you remember the one with all the hands that spawn?
I don't know. I just know there's one where you have to literally overlap the words, which is something you don't even know that you can do. And there's no point in the game that implies that you can do that.
Like literally putting multiple words on the same tile.
Right.
Yeah. There's one level where every time you move, hands start filling the screen.
I think I remember that.
And the solution is just to move in like a certain sequence of moves to break the sentence making those hands at the exactly right time.
Well, there's one that's lava. That's basically the same thing.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. But
I think that's what you're thinking of. It's basically just you have to move correctly to break the words, and that's it. Right. That's the puzzle. And it's just kind of, wow, okay. That's not even really a puzzle. That's just
it's just lame because that's not at all what the game really is about.
Right.
So there's definitely some
it does have a lot of content though, at least.
It does.
Like for what? It's like a $15 game. I played it for 38 hours. And I didn't even finish it. Although, to be fair, I think about 10 of those hours was spent on 10 puzzles.
There's I think this game is like the video game manifestation of the galaxy brain meme. Like, you kind of start out on this world map where everything's very, very clearly
there's one
derived from real life, where it's like, oh, you have mountains and you have a marsh and a swamp and whatever, and that's your basic thing. And then you finish the last level, and Baba shows up on the map and can like push levels around, and it's like just a little bigger. And then you like move on to a thing you didn't even know was interactable, and then you just get transported into like this strange metaphysical place where there's more levels, and then the galaxy brain gets bigger, and so on and so forth. And so you're pushing around entire worlds to create a new level, and it's just wild. The scope of the game for a game about a little white sheep thing, it really, really ups the stakes.
It is very creative, and everyone should.
Like you as in you. That's why it's a sheep.
Oh my god!
This is big.
That's all I have to contribute to this conversation.
I tried to look for this one thing I saw the other day in a V thread, and all I can find in Google Images is this one picture that just says Kiki slaps roof of Baba.
I saw that. It's not bad.
But yeah, all the I will say all the shit posting surrounding Baba is You is pretty great though. Pretty fantastic.
Seems like a very memeable game.
It's most certainly not bad.
Baba is thick.
Oh no.
Baba is thick is you. That's the real oh no.
Baba has gun.
Run.
I would most definitely buy more Baba content.
Oh yeah, I would definitely get like a sequel or something. I don't even know if this is something that could get a sequel though.
Yeah, I don't know how deep the design space is on like good Baba levels. Obviously, it's a pretty complex system where you can create things like Space Invaders if you wanted to. But as for actually making another game, the progression and difficulty curve, I don't know how deep that vein goes. But, and it might just be better for that guy to make something new. He's clearly pretty talented.
Got all that Baba money now.
And one thing to mention though, this game has a really dank soundtrack.
It does. I was so disappointed. I was talking to another group of friends of mine who were playing Baba, and I was like, "Oh man, the soundtrack is great, isn't it?" And they were just like, "No, what?" And
the
worst
blank stares.
Basically, but the worst thing is that like these guys are all pretty like really into music in a very pretentious kind of way.
Oh god.
They should have been able to appreciate it, and they were just like, "No, what? This is so boring." I
You gotta be in the game when you're just stuck on a puzzle for like 30 minutes. Having that dank ass soundtrack is pretty great.
It's great because you can just like, I'll take a break for 5 minutes, put down the controller, but the music still plays, and it is
very much thinking music.
It's catchy without being insistent nor grating. Think core. That's big brain.
Was the Jeopardy theme the first instance of Think Core?
Oh my god. I guess so.
Get this man a medal. Alex Trebek has cancer.
Oh he does. Hopefully he pulls through. So I want to talk about one more game before we hit our first break here, and it's Sekiro, which I think only Funk played.
Oh my god, that's a shame. That only I played it because it was a great game. Well, you basically played it, Steve.
Yeah, I watched you stream through pretty much the whole thing except for the final boss, which I don't know if you ever went back and beat, but
I did not.
Oh my god.
So I am, to give context to my opinion, I'm a pretty, I guess I'm a pretty fan of these Demon Souls, Dark Souls games.
Someone call you a Souls bro?
No.
I would.
My favorite game in the series is Demon Souls. I have played every release from in this series, and I've enjoyed all of them to varying degrees. But I was definitely getting very, very tired of the formula. Once I found out that Sekiro was very much in the vein of the Souls games, at least seemingly, I was pretty disappointed, but upon playing it, my opinion kind of did 180. So it preserves the best parts of the Souls series while reinvigorating what I think is the worst part, which is the combat. Combat in Dark Souls has become very, very samey, especially the boss fights. You just, I don't want to get into the whole Souls formula of how you do a boss fight, but in this game, there's a much higher emphasis on parrying rather than just blocking or dodging, which is great. The way the stamina system works in this game really changes the incentives of what you want to be doing in combat. And it really, the fights in this game that emphasize that parrying system are by far the best parts of the game. Whereas the few boss fights that are kind of ripped from Dark Souls are by far the weakest parts. It feels very, very great when you land a string of parries and they result in like some kind of flashy execution or finishing move or something. Granted, the timing seemed to be pretty generous on the parrying system, so it's not super skill intensive. I say this as the person who couldn't beat the final boss, but no. But what I really loved about the game, in addition to the combat, was what I've always loved about Souls games, which is the exploration. The setting of the game is very, very inspired. Obviously, it draws a lot of, well, I guess, inspiration from Japanese folklore and history and such. But it's such a stark contrast to the medieval fantasy, low fantasy of the Souls games that, thank God, it's not more dragons and knights and stuff. Bloodborne as well had a very different setting. I appreciated that. With the gameplay of the Souls series being so samey, they really need like a literal fresh coat of paint to set them apart from one another. Granted, like this game took steps with the gameplay as well, but yeah, if I'm going to be looking at this game for 40-ish hours, I can't handle just more dark fantasy. I can't do it. And not only is this different, but it's just very, very evocative. Like there's this one area of the game towards the end where it's on top of a waterfall and there's like a big lake and there's cherry blossoms everywhere and it's crazy. It looked great. The fantastical elements of it are also really heightened, just with these strange, I guess, mutilations of people. I don't know what you'd call these beings, but they just look really cool, and everything in the game is just looks fantastic from a design point of view. The graphics themselves are fine, but yeah. So I played through the whole game minus one fight in about a week or so. I would think I was on spring break, and I just got really drunk every night and played Sekiro through and through. And my God, did I have a good time! It was excellent. So it gets my seal of approval, whereas Dark Souls 3, Dark Souls 2 really kind of fumbled the ball by not doing anything new. Like Bloodborne changed how you wanted to approach combat, but the actual mechanics of fighting were very similar to the Souls games. Whereas it feels unique when you play it. And if they're committed to doing these third-person action games with blocking and dodging and melee combat, they're going to need to do similar shakeups mechanically every time. Otherwise, I just won't be interested.
I think the biggest problem is they just put out too many Souls games too quickly.
Yes, I mean that definitely contributes to burnout, but I don't. It's difficult for me to say if. I mean, Dark Souls 2 had very clear flaws that were more than just burnout. Dark Souls 3, I'd attribute my disdain, my tepid response to that game being more to burnout than anything else. If they had released that same game more stretched out or with a longer time period between them, I don't know how enthusiastic I would be about it. I would like it more, but I still think I'd want something new. So how much you want to attribute things to oversaturation, it's still good to mechanically do something new.
That's fair.
Yeah, but I'd recommend this game to anybody who has a passing interest in action games. I don't play a lot of them, so I'm not going to try to speak from a position of authority. but it feels pretty unique. The combat system in this game, just your image of ninja and samurai, that like clashing swords and whatnot, very stylistically, it really translates that to gameplay very well. So, just an all-around success. I loved it.
This is probably
yeah.
I was gonna say this is probably the closest I came to wanting to jump on one of these From games, but as I came to learn about myself later in the year, I don't think I have the patience for games that are like this difficult anymore.
Sick foreshadowing. And it's speaking on the difficulty in these games, it's very. I don't think it's a traditional kind of difficult for me. I've struggled with this game. I couldn't beat the final boss, but the way that I approach these games, it never really feels. Nothing ever feels impossible. Oh, so there's a good example. I was stuck in this one fight early in the game for very long, maybe like 3 or 4 hours. It was this one boss fight with this old woman. I don't know if you remember from the playthrough, but I was stuck there for a while.
Yeah.
But the whole time I was playing it, it felt very doable. It's not. Whenever I think of things that are difficult, maybe this speaks more to my character than anything else. I just think about giving up almost instantly, being like, all right, no, this is impossible. If it's even slightly difficult, it's a no-go. But with these games, you always just kind of feel like you're on the cusp of getting a breakthrough, and it pushes me through what otherwise would be something I have no interest in grinding out. Because I'm not very good at video games. I don't pretend to be. And I also have very little patience for bullshit. So, but with these games, I just have always managed to push through. And I can't quite pinpoint why that is. Like, what about their design gives them that feeling that it's that they're perennially possible. But yeah, if you're worried about being turned off by, I don't want to put any effort to do this, or whatever difficult it is, it doesn't feel that way. It never feels like work to beat the difficult sections of it, at least in my opinion. Maybe I'm autistic and I just like.
No, I like those games are always fair in their difficulty, but it's more like my style of play. I'm not patient enough to sit around and wait for the right moment to do everything that the game needs me to do to beat it. And then I'm someone who likes making progress in games. So if I get stuck on something that it takes me hours to beat, I don't have as much tolerance for that anymore. Even if it's fair.
I guess what I mean is that these games make it easier to be patient with them, and whether that reaches your threshold for what you would consider acceptable, I don't know. But
yeah, this is more of a personal problem with me, and it's not really an issue with the game.
I'm not saying you're attacking the game. Just that I think it might be possible. It might be possible for you to have that same feeling of finding yourself with more patience than you otherwise would. It's not. I'm not guaranteeing that, but it's a maybe.
Well, this does relate to me for something I'll talk about later, because it's right up the alley of what this discussion is. But
so,
I'll
when you struggled with Cadence of Hyrule.
I did not play that game.
Well, those are my thoughts on Sekiro. I'll Seki go to the polls.
Great. Well, we're gonna take a break then, and we'll be right back and talk about some of the games that came out this summer.
Yay!
Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Sonic Bar Podcast. We're talking about more games that came out in 2019, and the next game is a game that came out this year that I played, and that's about the end of it. It's called Team Sonic Racing.
Almost inexplicably.
Team Sonic Racing, this year's only Sonic game. Not much to say about it other than that it exists and it's okay. It's weird because it is a sequel, but not really, to Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed that came out 7 years ago. That's one of the best kart racing games that have ever been made. And this game has like a follow up to that is disappointing because it strips all of that cool Sega stuff out.
Did it not resolve the cliffhanger at the end of that game?
Sadly, it did not. But thankfully, it did not also bring back Danica Patrick. But that's only because they got rid of all this like extraneous Sega stuff and just stuck to Sonic, which, it's like you're like we like Sonic to a certain degree here, but like you're also kind of stretching when you put fucking Mr. Deadly Six Man in this game. It's just like, man, can we get rid of him? I don't even remember what his name is. Whatever. So the gimmick of this game was just like you're racing as a team, so you have 2 AI teammates with you, and you combine to share items and perform stunts and get boosts and all that kind of stuff. It works, but also it's not very compelling as like a gimmick or a mechanic for the game. And to sort of account for that, like every track in the game feels like really wide, like to account for all the racers that are going on at the same time. So the track design is just like not very tight. There's just not a lot going on in terms of any shortcuts or anything like that. It's just kind of like a by the numbers kart racing game, just with that team mechanic that doesn't add anything to it. And also the steering was weirdly loose. Like it felt kind of weird to control. So, I played through the whole thing. Like it had like a full story mode and everything like that. And like the story's like shitty Sonic story, but like at least there was an effort made here. Unlike most racing games, like at least gave me something to propel through it single player. But like the actual racing mechanics aren't good enough to where I would want to go back and ever play this game again. Like I got the platinum trophy and I was done with it, and that's
I'm impressed you actually beat it.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't necessarily difficult. Some of the extra challenges they do, which I'm glad they put those in because there was at least some like diversity that wasn't just like here's a race from beginning to end. Some of those were challenging though, and that was about the only hold up in terms of getting a platinum trophy. But it's like, this is kind of like the most whatever game I played this year. Like most of the games I played this year were kind of games I had a feeling I was gonna like or had a feeling were gonna be good. This was the most like whatever. It came and went. The less said about it, the better.
This one is not Pog?
It is not Pog. I very specifically typed nothing next to it because of this.
This one is it's more Resident Sleeper.
Kind of, yeah.
I watched you play some of this, and the most surprising thing to me was how cheap the game looked.
Yeah, it's very much a budget game. It almost felt like they didn't want to make it. Like they were like someone said, "Okay, we need another Sonic game. We haven't done a racing game in a while. Let's just like pump one out." Because the guys at Sumo Digital who made this, like they made the other Sonic racing games, which were much better, especially Transformed, which is amazing. So, it just felt like this was something they were contracted out to do and just had no real desire to do it. It's just like this is work. We got work. All right, here's what we came up with.
Just bang it out for $40.
The whole thing of just being Sonic and not having the other Sega stuff, it felt very like corporate mandated. Like we don't want any of that other Sega shit. Remind people we used to be good. Let's just have Sonic. Kids love Sonic. Yeah, it wasn't very compelling. And that's about it. So who wanted to talk about Cadence of Hyrule?
Well, Funk was the one who played it, right?
I did play it. I can talk about it. I don't know if I wanted to, though. I guess I'll start. So, apparently, Cadence of Hyrule is a spin-off of Crypt of the NecroDancer, which is a game I've never played. But
you should call it by its full title.
All right. Apparently, Cadence of Hyrule, Crypt of the NecroDancer, featuring the Legends of Zelda, is a spin-off of the game Crypt of the NecroDancer, which I have never played.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I thought I would be very into this game. I really like music. I really like rhythm games. And I really was. I found the idea of the game to be pretty appealing. How you have to move and battle in rhythm. But ultimately, I didn't get that much satisfaction from those mechanics. There's a lot of talk about like, oh, once I was in sync with the music and I was doing it, it felt really good, and I never really had that feeling. In fact, it just kind of felt like I was constantly at odds with the rhythm. And I think part of that had to do with the what is the name of this? The calibration of the visuals and the audio, which has been a thorn in my side for more than a decade now, calibrating audio in video games. Matt knows what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah. Oh boy.
When I saw that, I was surprised, but I should have expected it. And I was like, oh no, not again. Not again.
Calibrating Rock Band on HD TVs.
I think
it's like a lag issue, or
So it's an issue where like notes will like the point on the screen where you have to like hit a note will be off from the actual note being played.
Okay.
Right. So the visuals and the sounds are not exactly in sync, and it's not a very noticeable lag. It's only milliseconds, but being off in a rhythm game is pretty significant.
Throws off your rhythm.
Oh yeah.
Right. And it's difficult to go just by your ear because the audio, or rather the visuals in this game, all like pulsate to the beat. So you have these things pulling you into the opposite directions as far as their timing is concerned, if they're off, which they were for me. And I'll recognize that it's a failure on my part to properly calibrate, but it just led to, hitting a stumble in the middle of an otherwise like long chain of rhythmic commands, which really just takes you out of it.
Don't you play handheld though? Like, was that a problem in the handheld?
I played it in both. It was more of a problem on my TV, but when you switch between the two, it kind of the acclimation you had to one interrupts your ability to play well on the other. Mm. So I guess it was kind of a perfect storm of things outside of the game itself that were a detriment to my experience. Now, all that said, I don't think the game itself is all that great, even if it is working. I'm not a big fan, and I don't even know why I bought the game if this is the case. I'm not really a big fan of like the roguelikes and such. I thought that a game based on Zelda music would be enough to kind of win me over, and the remixes were cool, but ultimately it's probably the same as Crypt of the NecroDancer was, and I never had any interest in that game.
Crypt of the NecroDancer is the gameplay is pretty similar, but it's a much different game in that it's more of a roguelike.
Okay. They kind of toned it down for this one, right?
They toned down the difficulty significantly for Cadence of Hyrule. Probably to make it more accessible since it's Zelda.
I talk about like stumbling because of the calibration. Despite that, I never really was in danger of losing. And if I did lose or died, the stakes were very, very low.
Right. It's
I
very
assume Crypt has permadeath.
Yes. Once you die, you have to start over from like I think it has. It's not. It's okay. It's a rogue light, not a rogue light.
There it is.
So it's not like you keep your progress to a certain extent. Like you unlock things to make things easier going as you get further and further into like the levels and everything, but it does have permadeath to the point where you do have to like restart a dungeon at a certain point. But it is much more difficult, and it is just like every rogue based game out there, it's all procedurally generated and all that.
Rogue Squadron wasn't procedurally generated.
Oh my god!
Always a delight. I think Frank played this game. Is he not here?
Frank?
I didn't play Cadence of Hyrule.
I thought you said you played
Crypt. No, I played Crypt of the NecroDancer, and I liked Crypt of the NecroDancer, but I've never played Cadence of Hyrule.
I see.
I swear you said you played it. That's why I put it on the list.
No, I mean, like, I've been interested in playing it, but
I see.
Yeah, because I liked Crypt of the NecroDancer a pretty fair bit, even though I'm not much of a roguelike person, just because I think the gameplay for it is kind of engaging and the concepts are fun. But I know that that Cadence of Hyrule had some issues, and also Cadence of Hyrule was like a $30 game when it dropped.
25.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. I mean, Crypt of the NecroDancer, like, I'm pretty sure I got it for like $4.
Yeah, it goes on sale like every couple months for like $4.
Yeah.
The base game is like 15.
Yeah. I definitely paid the Zelda tax to play this one.
There's some obviously Nintendo jewelry going on here.
Well, it's like it's kind of interesting to see that Nintendo like let an indie dev work with Zelda, but
yeah, it's pretty cool that they did that.
I wonder how this deal happened.
I think Nintendo may have approached them. I don't know.
But why?
I guess they wanted to have a Zelda game out this year. That wasn't just a remake.
Big fans of the game. They must have been.
I think they just wanted to have more incentive for indie stuff, and they were like, "Hey, let's make something with this because we can like make remixes. People will be really interested in it. Another Zelda game to put out along with something that's just a remake, just to hold people over till Breath of the Wild 2. Maybe."
Well, it came out.
It certainly did. I finished it, and I never thought about it again.
This year had a lot of games that were kind of just like, yeah, that was a game that came out this year.
Yeah. I bought a lot of games this year. I would just browse the new releases on the Switch store and just buy things. And more often than not, that bit me in the end for some reason.
You win some, you lose some.
I have a elephant graveyard on my Switch of just terrible games. If you want to ask me about Cube Island, I can.
Oh God!
I think
give you my full review of that.
Did you ever play the game Cube with a Q?
No, but I think I didn't.
Okay.
No, but you think you didn't.
Yeah, and
they say don't be like it is.
So, I guess I kind of made my own bet on this one by buying all the games I knew would be bad. But sometimes when you make something, you just have to lie in it. Like my Mario made level.
Segue.
I was gonna say, sometimes if games are bad, you can make good games by yourself with Super Mario Maker 2.
Yeah, that was much better than what I had.
So Super Mario Maker 2 is kind of an interesting one to me in that, like, this is like a great game that's also just like it takes everything that was in the first game and just does more of it. But like that's also was kind of its downfall to me in that, like, I mean, I put 100-something hours into this game, but at the same time, it's like I burned out on it pretty quick because it is just more of the same. Like Super Mario Maker when it came out on the Wii U was just like such an amazing new revelatory experience. Like, holy shit, they're letting you make Mario stages, and also they like package it in such a way that was like very easy to get into. Like anyone could fucking just make a stage, and it worked very well, and it was totally surprising. It was such a cool little thing. And this one is just like it kind of loses that novelty of it. But it's still an amazing game. Like I still spent 100 hours mostly making stages. Like I played very little of the actual game, like other people's stages and stuff. So this is kind of a very me thing, but it's like so they have this thing where like you can dress up your me in the game with costumes and shit, but you have to unlock them. So I wanted to get the fucking Rosalina outfit for my me because I love Rosalina, but they had put it behind some stupid condition like having to play like 3,000 fucking stages. So at some point I just got so burned out of playing like shitty easy stages trying to grind this fucking costume that I just stopped playing the game.
Steve, if you needed more good stages, you could have just asked me to make some.
So yes, but also that is kind of the game's downside in that, like, there are a lot of really good stages.
I can make stages in it?
Fuck should be banned from making stages, yes, that's my position. But like if
it's
you
Halo
want
3 all over again.
like if you want good stages, you have to make the effort to go get them. Like the game is still very much the same in serving up the kind of stuff that is popular to a large majority of people, but not necessarily to people who just want to play good Mario stages. Like the 20-second speedrun stages, which seem to be the big popular thing this time around, like those are interesting and well made, but like once you've played one, you've played them all. So I got tired of those very quickly, and then the rest of it, it's just like automatic stages and music stages and shit like that. Like you really have to go out and find stages and be a part of communities, and if you want people to play your stages, you have to go there too and put them out there. Like there's a lot of like effort and work outside of the game that you have to kind of put in to really enjoy it. That it does kind of suck that there's not a better way to do that, but like when you just have so many millions of stages out there, like that's kind of what happens, right? And I also hit the point where like my enjoyment of the game was largely making stages. Like I enjoy doing that, but I found that like a lot of the stages I made when the game came out, like those were really popular, but as the game went on and got popular with more and more levels, like it became harder for people to find my stages, so they got played less and less, which, you know, it's the nature of the beast, right? But like it's a much easier to find that motivation to make stages when you know people are out there and enjoying them. So if you don't build like a following for yourself of people regularly playing your stages, they just don't get played. So that's why I kind of dropped off on playing it.
Sad.
How did you guys find your enjoyment of it?
Well, I mostly stuck to the single player in an effort to undermine everything the game was about. But I enjoyed playing the single player. I liked the progression system of the castle. I think that a lot of the levels were pretty, I think neat is the perfect way to describe them. Like they weren't challenging, but they worked really well as just introductions to cool things you can do with the maker. And you know, I just like paying off construction bills. That's why I'm excited for Animal Crossing. I appreciated the few little secrets that they scattered throughout the very small overworld area.
It was pretty charming.
Like it was. And the fact that they unlocked things to use in the multiplayer or the maker was nice. Having mostly done that, I'm pretty satisfied with my purchase just for the single player content. And obviously, you know, there's a whole other side of the game that has been fun now and again. But from what I understand, because I never played the first one didn't have any kind of real single player content like that.
It did, but it didn't present it to you in any way. It was just like, here's a menu of levels that you can play.
Yeah.
But that was about it. Like they put much more of an effort into that, and I do appreciate that. Like I didn't finish the single player mode, but I appreciate the effort they put into, especially for people who probably didn't play the Wii U version, because who the fuck owned a Wii U other than us? But for those kind of people just coming to it for the first time, like that was very useful. A couple of other things I wanted to mention is just in terms of making stages, the interface wasn't quite as good as the Wii U, obviously, because that was kind of built around it. Whereas this one, I primarily made stages with the Pro Controller, which is more difficult, but like after like an hour or two learning curve of getting used to it, I was able to make stages like fairly comfortably. Not as easy as using the Wii U gamepad, but I was able to get to a point where the controller was fine. But I do definitely wish, you know, the one experience from the Wii U that maybe didn't perfectly translate to the Switch. Like, yeah, it sucked kind of missing the gamepad when it came to making stages.
That was something that really kind of turned me off from the game a lot. Like, I didn't really play much of it, but what I liked about the Wii U Mario Maker is how intuitive it was to just pick up the gamepad and just drag and drop and make a stage, and it just felt very quick and easy. And then this game, it's like, oh, you have to do all these like crazy combinations of buttons and shit. And it's like, oh god.
Yeah, even if you make it in handheld mode,
this is just.
It's like I didn't even have a stylus that I could use with my Switch. Like you need a special kind of stylus.
It's
So-
just really like I tried like making a level and I was just like, this is just not fun. This is really annoying to do. And Mario Maker 2 is a weird game because it's a game that's like this is a great game, but I have absolutely no passion for it whatsoever.
Yeah, it's not going to appeal to everyone.
And it's just like I can play it and I can be like, I enjoy this game and I'm glad that it came out. But at the same time, I have no incentive to ever pick it up ever again.
Yeah, the problem is, and I guess it's not really a problem, but it's creating a stage, even a simple one, takes a lot of effort. A
Yeah.
lot of effort.
That too.
And
Every time
that's
every
not
time I play it,
inherently
it's-
bad,
no.
but it does make it difficult for a casual fan like me to dive into the stage building. So many great stages are just locked behind that effort paywall.
Mm-hmm.
Think of what could be unleashed upon the world if it was easier for me.
This is one of those games where it's like, man, I wish I was just really playing an actual 2D Mario game right now. And not-
You say that, but like people also kind of got burned out from those.
They did,
Well,
but that's
because they
new-
only released the new games.
that's new Super Mario Bros, which is a
Those were
lot
still good
different.
games. They were
They're
still
good.
games.
They're good, but they're soulless. They're
Anti-God.
genuinely soulless.
I did like the 3D Mario World stage.
Oh yeah, the
theme that they
3D
had in
world
this
stuff
game.
is cool.
Like it was very limiting. Like there was just less things you could do with it compared to the other modes, but like it was just kind of cool to see them work that in such an interesting way.
All right, so here's a power ranking of the themes available in the game.
Go for it.
Number 1, Super Mario World. Number 2, in Super Mario Brothers 8-bit. Number 3, Super Mario 3D World. Number 4, Super Mario Brothers 3, and number 999,000, whatever. Number Infinity, New Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah, but wall jumping. You need the wall jumping.
Look, you don't.
Wall kicks will work, Funk. Trust me.
It looks like garbage.
It is
Mario
one-
Brothers
yeah.
3 is the best.
It is like why even do that when you have 3D World?
Just because of the different mechanics.
I
Pretty
guess
much
so.
it.
Yeah.
Because there's a number of 2D like objects and elements and enemies that you cannot use in 3D World.
Right. I will say this: the new update does make me a lot more interested in going back to it at some point.
Yeah, and I do wish they would have. Like I've made this point before, but like I want them to spread out the content, the updates and stuff over like a larger period instead of just dumping them all at once. Because
As soon as something's finished, just ship it.
Right.
Yeah, because it's like I would have probably kept with the game more if they just like introduced a new piece like every few weeks or so, just
Right.
like how Splatoon did it. Like they like Splatoon was maybe the wrong way to go about it, in that they held content back so that they could drip it out after release, but that also kept us engaged with that game months after it came out.
Mhm.
Whereas this is like, I played it for a month and then I dropped off and just, didn't go back to it because there wasn't much
This-
reason to.
The whole Zelda thing is cool because now it's like, is this like Nintendo potentially dipping their feet back into Zelda 2? Because they do use the so when you so you know how there's like music that you can add and there's like a boss music when you're in Link mode, the boss music actually changes to music from Zelda 2.
See, that's nice because it's a side scroller.
Right. So there's a lot of potential there for that.
There's also potential for them to add other power-ups based on other Nintendo franchises, other
Right.
than Zelda, which would be pretty cool
If
if they want to go with that one too.
I would I would like if they drop a Super Mario Bros. 2 skin, like a uh, mode, whatever you call it. Like I would definitely go back to it.
Yeah, like they have to know that's what people want. So.
Like everybody wants that.
I guess we'll see. Frank, did you play Mario Maker 2?
I didn't. I didn't want to spend the 60 on it, and by the time that it came out, my Nintendo Online was expiring, and you wouldn't even be able to use it without it anyway. So
I see.
Yeah, I got it for the 3 months when Splatoon dropped. When Tetris 99 dropped.
Yeah, it's a good game, but it is what it is.
Yep.
Frank.
Yes.
I hear you've been quite into Final Fantasy XIV this year.
Oh my god, I started playing in July once the new X Pack dropped, and I've poured like just about 200 hours into it. Probably more than that at this point. It's a hook. And
is this a backdoor intervention?
It might be. You know what? It's just so easy just to log in and like I don't know if you want to level up like a gathering or a crafting class. Like I could just
gathering. You say?
Yeah. There are 3 gathering classes and like 4 or 5 crafting classes that basically make up the economy of the game. This is a terrible segue into me being really into Shadowbringers, by the way. But essentially, I started playing the game once 5.0, which is the new content, dropped. So I had to work my way up from the 2.0 content all the way up, and that was definitely a big waste of my summer. But it was pretty fun. But I will just say as a disclaimer. If you're looking to get into the game, I would absolutely wait until February, because in February they're rebranding A Realm Reborn and they're cutting out all of the shitty filler content, of which there is a lot. So I would definitely wait until they cut back on that shit before you start playing it, because A Realm Reborn alone, that's level 1 through 50 for all of your classes. So that takes a pretty significant chunk of time. And then the 2.1 through 2.5 content is, in the community, they tend to call it the 100 quests from hell, because they just take fucking forever. But the reward for that is getting into Heavensward, which is the 3.0 content, which is definitely what saved the game for me. Because if the rest of the game was like A Realm Reborn, I definitely would not have stuck around.
Jeez, imagine if you played the original Final Fantasy XIV.
Yeah, no, that was a disaster. That was a straight up disaster. But I've really been enjoying, especially like the deeper I get into Final Fantasy, the more I end up enjoying it.
Like it draws a lot of inspiration from all the Final Fantasy games, right?
Well, there's a lot of fun callbacks to the other Final Fantasy games in there. Like when I started playing, I started as a Marauder, but I switched to Dragoon because Final Fantasy IV is one of my favorite games, and the quest makes a lot of references to characters from Final Fantasy IV, because Kain, who is like the secondary protagonist of Final Fantasy IV, your armor is inspired by his look. And he, your character can like get his pose and stuff like that. And aside from just like references, there are dungeons that are like meant to be challenged by like groups of 24 people that are inspired by games from past Final Fantasy titles. So the first one that you do is like Crystal Tower from Final Fantasy III. That's the 2.0 one. And then they have Alexander from Final Fantasy IX. Now they have Eden from Final Fantasy VIII. But on top of that, they're also doing a Nier Automata collab, which just came out in Shadowbringers last month. Which is done like by Yoko Taro, who did Nier Automata, which is a lot of fun. They they clearly have a lot of love for that. In terms of the story of Final Fantasy XIV, like it's big and sprawling, and it's doled out over the course of all these expansions. And Shadowbringers is pretty much where it comes to the peak, because all throughout the rest of the series, like the Final Fantasy XIV series, I should say, you kind of have like these snickering, like black robed, like demigod sort of people called the Scions, who just sort of they orchestrate like nasty shit going on in the background. But in Shadowbringers, you actually get into the origins of the Ascians, and it gives them some genuine pathos, which is something that they desperately needed, because it seemed like prior to that they were just sort of like knockoff Organization 13 motherfuckers. But it actually is relatively compelling, and gameplay wise, it's just the content is a lot of fun. It's done in a way that's really intuitive and friendly to people that aren't so big into MMOs when you start off in A Realm Reborn. But the nature of the expansion packs as they come out is, because they're meant to be done at higher levels, like Heavensward is for levels 50 through 60, then Stormblood is for 60 to 70, and now Shadowbringers goes up to level 80. So because you're getting stronger and you have more of a familiarity with the game, you're expected to be able to do content that's more difficult. So as the expansions progress, the content just gets harder and harder, and you can do extreme content, which is like a real challenge. But Shadowbringers introduces some really cool bosses. Like Titania is like a lot of fun, and Titania EX is like it's a challenge, but it's not impossible. And once you have like a pretty significant like learning party going on, that's because you have to get like 8 people that are kind of coordinated for the mechanics to actually go for it. It's really, really satisfying to do that fight if you're doing it with people who like know what they're doing. It's a lot of fun. The gameplay is good. The freedom of having your character is good. Like I spent a lot of time in the character creator, like first creating my character. I don't know if you people are into that. What starts off as a fairly generic sort of like, oh, you're the chosen one, go fight these guys sort of plot, like while it starts to sort of veer off into like some political intrigue and a war that's going on between like the dragons and the Ishgardians, and like not all is as it seems in that regard, and like there's a lot of genuinely interesting world building, and the characters for the most part are really interesting. So for an MMO, it's a story that I wasn't expecting a lot from, and I wound up, and maybe it's just because I poured like almost 200 hours into it at this point. I wound up being pretty much endeared to a majority of the cast that sticks around. So I'm because it's such an expanding story, and it's something that's not going to go anytime soon. I think he wants to make it go up to like level 99 or whatever. So that's like at least 2 more X packs before the end of the story. So I'm curious to see like how much deeper it's going to go, because Shadowbringers right now is considered like the peak of it. So we'll see where it goes. Am I boring you?
You okay, Funk?
Who?
Am I boring you?
Oh, I didn't do anything.
No, you weren't snoring?
No, I stretched.
Oh.
It sounded like I was gonna say, like, I've become a lot more open-minded to playing games that I previously would not have considered getting into, but I don't think I will ever get into MMOs. Like, it's just not my thing.
Well, they're just such a time sink. I also thought I wasn't going to get into MMOs. I was like, I played World of Warcraft when I was, like, super young, and I just could not get into it for the life of me. But my girlfriend
played it with me.
My girlfriend played a lot of Final Fantasy, and I was watching her play, and I was like, wow, like this, like watching her do boss fights and watching her, do bosses that were inspired by like older Final Fantasy games. Like you fight like Kefka, and you fight like Cloud of Darkness and stuff like that. And it's like, wow, like the three demons from like Final Fantasy VI are in it, and it's like, holy shit. Oh, Exdeath is one of them too, and it's like, holy shit. Like they managed to take these fights and make them work on this like 3D plane where you have to dodge AoEs and do mechanics and like do it in a way that genuinely looks like not only like interesting to the eye, but is also really fun in practice. And I was like, oh, you know what? Like, maybe I'll just bite the bullet and I'll grind through the shitty fucking ARR stuff and I'll get through it. And then, what do you know? Like, right around the time when I finished A Realm Reborn, they come out saying like, oh, we're implementing New Game Plus and we're cutting out a lot of the fodder that's in like the 2.0 content. And I'm like, oh, fuck me, I guess I should have just started in February. But it's been fun. It's definitely, if you don't have any experience with MMOs, it's definitely a good game to start with because it eases you into it really, really well. But if MMOs just like completely and totally aren't your bag, then you definitely won't like it.
Fair enough.
So there you go.
All right, maybe you were boring me a little bit, but I didn't actually snore. I am funny. I am funny, Frank. You're right.
All right, let's segue.
Yeah, so quite interesting enough. Speaking of games that like I previously had never been into, it kind of opened myself to giving a try this year was Fire Emblem. So Fire Emblem Three Houses came out, and I'd never played any Fire Emblem game before. It's always been kind of interesting, but like I wanted to try the Awakening and Fates, but like the fucking stupid censorship bullshit from Nintendo was like, yeah, maybe I'll hold off on that. And
Awakening wasn't censored, was it?
No, it wasn't. But like, I also like by the time I was kind of interested in trying that, it had been out for such a while that I just didn't feel like going back to it. And then the censorship bullshit with Fates. So when this one came along and everything seemed like it'd be fine, I was like, okay, I'll give this one a shot. And also the so new to this one is the whole monastery building. It's like this kind of open, quote unquote open world, but like you can wander around, you can talk with people. It kind of gave off like a bit of a Persona vibe, especially just with this stuff has already been in the series before, with the kind of social link-esque stuff where you talk to people and you level up with them and you learn more about them. Like because I had gotten into Persona a couple years ago, I was like, okay, this seems sort of up this alley a bit more, so maybe I'll give this a shot. And I really loved all that element about it. I loved just like walking around that school and seeing what everyone's up to and like talking to people and learning more about them and leveling up with them and having them teach me stuff and then turning around teaching them stuff. It's really cool. And so I'm not a big fan of necessarily of like strategic combat. And I definitely found with this game, even though I played it on like easy with no permadeath, like I had a huge learning curve. Like I had people dying very early in the game, so I'm glad I didn't have the permadeath option on.
How?
I'm just bad at this shit. Okay, I don't think ahead. I just act. And like there's also just a lot of mechanics that you kind of have to learn, and I felt like the game didn't always explain them to you as well as it could. Like there's stuff you have to go into menus and read, and I didn't always
I think the Divine Pulse feature makes it really helpful. That's something that wasn't really in like any of the prior games, that lets you sort of like rewind back to a previous turn and be like, oh, I'll fix this mistake here.
But even then, when I was using it, I didn't fully understand how it worked, so I was rewinding back to like the wrong turn and shit.
Okay,
so I finally got the hang of it.
It's a nice like quality of life change that they implemented. That
it's kind of baby mode though.
No, well, they went above and beyond in sort of casualizing the combat. For example, like this is the first Fire Emblem game in a really long time. I don't know, it might be ever. I'm not a big enough Fire Emblem enough to know that off the top of my head, but it's the first one that I've played at the very least that doesn't have a weapon triangle in it.
Yeah, they specifically got rid of it for this.
Yeah, and I kind of like the weapon triangle in the previous games, especially like when it got into the magic triangle as well, because I think that sort of rock paper scissors element makes for some really engaging gameplay rather than just sort of like, oh, I'm gonna give you a sword, I'm gonna give you an axe or whatever. You can just brute force this based on like whatever works for you. Like I can see the appeal to that because like you're cutting out like what seems to be like an unnecessary step, but it's an element like a strategic element that's sort of lost. And I would go in there like expecting my character to do like more damage against like my character has a sword or whatever, expecting my character to do more damage against this guy because he has an axe, and it's like, oh wait, that's not the case because there's a weapon triangle in this game. It's like, okay, like, and I think for the most part the strategy gameplay, it's good. They made some nice quality of life changes aside from taking out the strategy stuff. I think having like the battalions and stuff behind you is a nice change. Pairing up units works differently, but I guess it was kind of broken in Awakening, so I can see why they took it out. The thing with the school life to me that was particularly impressive was they kind of outsourced that whole entire thing, right?
Yeah.
To Koei Tecmo.
Yeah.
And they ended up doing a pretty good job at making that building feel sprawling and like having characters be in places, like where they would conceivably be, which I think it was nice. They could have put a lot of thought in that regard. The thing I didn't like was giving things back to people, because you're kind of just sitting there with like this massive
cycling through the
shit.
menu.
Yeah, and he's like, yeah, that's not mine, not mine, not mine, not mine. Oh, it's mine. Like
you could take the time to learn about everyone and what they like and shit, but it's like, why bother when you can
yeah,
just do
yeah.
that?
And the other thing is, I also thought it was a little half baked that you can only utilize that sort of school life portion on 2 days out of the week. I thought that if they, had somehow expanded it into, doing it throughout the week, it would have worked a little better. But
well, that's a balance issue, right? Like they very clearly had a set amount of time slots that they wanted you to have.
Right.
So I think if you had more opportunities to do it, it wouldn't exist as it does in its current form.
That's probably true.
It felt like enough to where like I always got my fill before I wanted to get back into combat, and then once I was done with the combat, like I felt like I was ready to go back to another round.
Right.
Of exploring
I felt
shit.
that there wasn't enough combat. I didn't find the school life time management aspect of the game to be compelling enough where it took such a large portion of the game relative to the combat. I know that they have side battles and such, and you can opt to do them rather than explore the school, but those also weren't very engaging. Like they're
good for leveling and stuff. Like that's why.
Right, but I'm not playing the game to level. I'm playing the game to have fun.
but
That's an interesting take.
I'm not saying that they're useless. It's just that when they're not super, I wanted more of the game to be engaging, meaningful battles, not useful battles, but battles that I have a drive to do because there's a payoff and they're strategically engaging. Whereas these canned battles were never really hard enough to challenge me on a tactical level, and doing them just kind of felt like grinding.
Well, maybe you should have just done it on a higher difficulty. Like some of those are meant to just be like, oh, we have this particular terrain, and we're testing like how you would want these characters to move in a situation where you would have to route them on like this particular battlefield or whatever. So in that regard, I think it's kind of interesting.
So there are two things I want to touch on. One is that like. So the game eventually does introduce these side battles that have story components, as in like you take specific characters with you because like there's like a side story involving them in that battle.
Yes,
so
and those were fun.
Yeah. But I did find that like having played through the entire game on easy, this game was clearly meant to be played and designed for a harder difficulty. Like easy is way too easy even for me.
I played on normal with the permadeath. And
did you? Okay.
I never.
That's what I played on as well for my first playthrough.
I never felt particularly challenged. Maybe the normal difficulty option is not meant to be challenging.
There's only normal and hard, right?
Well, they added in a new like maddening difficulty, I think.
Okay, but yeah, like when I made it easy, easy is normal. But
I was
like,
gonna say, how's the person who corrected me on normal being easy the one who also said he played on the easy mode that doesn't exist?
I meant like easy as in the easiest difficulty. It wasn't necessarily labeled easy. So I meant that what I meant is it was designed to be played on hard mode.
Yes,
Like straight up. And
I was talking to a friend of mine who was playing the game for his first playthrough on hard with permadeath, like whatever the max possible difficulty settings were, and he got to the part of
maddening with permadeath probably then.
Probably, yeah. He got to the time skip, and there's that battle, at least in the Blue Lions story. I haven't played the other ones, where you start out with just you and Dimitri, and then gradually your squad comes in.
Yeah.
And I think the way it was, I don't remember his exact situation, but it was something like your core student body comes in, like the actual Blue Lions members, and not your recruits, at least not for a bit. But he had recruited so many people, only used them, that the core Blue Lion members were all underleveled.
Huh. That's interesting.
Right, so he's doing that fight, and the only characters he has that are worth a damn are Dimitri and the player character. And as everybody else starts showing up, they're completely useless, and it just completely swung the difficulty of that fight to an impossibly high level that was, according to him, that felt pretty unfair, because he was punished for recruiting and using characters rather than just
that's interesting.
The base ones.
So that brings me back to what I was talking about before, how the game doesn't necessarily explain everything well. So there's a system in the game where you can so you can only use a certain amount of your class per battle, but you can also have some of them attached to other units so that they still get XP for being in battle, even though they're not active in the battle, right? And I didn't understand how that worked for the longest time, so I was not taking any of the additional classmates into battle, like, teamed up with anyone. So, like, they were just sitting on my bench not getting XP, and that never really, like, came to be an issue. But it's just, like, the game didn't really explain how that worked very well to me. So, like, there's, like, a core component of this game that I just did not interact with at all because of that. So, I feel like that's one of those things that maybe he was also in that situation where his bench members, quote unquote, were not getting EXP because of that. But
either that, or he recruited so many people that his benched guys were not Blue Lions members.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah. But the thing is, it's weird because that game has a decent amount of tutorializing, at least with pop-ups and such. So it's strange that any element would go unexplained.
It does explain it to you. I just don't think it explained it well enough to where I understood what was going on, right?
Yeah.
Because, even though it does that, it also has, like, a full menu of even more explanations that you can go into. And sometimes I had to do that to understand what was going on. And that's very much on me. But I also feel like the game could have explained some of these things a bit better than it did. But that's kind of like a minor issue.
I think because of how many pop-ups there are explaining things, it kind of becomes easy to not look at them. Which isn't
they
really
get lost in the shuffle. Yeah,
it's difficult to really blame the game for that, but it's you just tend to, like, click through these things because they just always pop up, and oftentimes about obvious things. And then it would happen where I would get to, like, the second or third page and, like, wait, what am I reading about again?
Yeah, and also, like, I feel like a lot of these things probably don't even matter if you're playing on the normal difficulty, like I was.
Right.
Like, some of the stuff is way more crucial when you get to the harder difficulty. But, like, even in spite of that, like, I had a lot of fun with this game.
So here's my it's both a good thing and a bad thing in my opinion. Compared to, like, Fire Emblem Fates, for example, which is it branches off at chapter 6 depending on your version, and you can get.
I had blue.
Black Eagles was the correct choice. Just
no.
Clear on that.
So Fates is split up into Birthright, Conquest, and then Revelations is the DLC one.
Yes.
And they're all separate games, but they all tell a complete story. Whereas in this game, like, I started with Blue Lions, and then the next one that I did was the church route, and. It's amazing to me how you're getting so many different pieces of the story depending on the route that you do in such a way that like it both feels complete, but it doesn't because you're missing just so much information. Like in Fates, regardless of the route that you do, you get the same amount of information. It's just the the direction of the story changes because you're aligned with different parties. In this one, you straight up are missing like knowledge about the church, knowledge about people that are associated with the monastery, particularly like Flane and Seteth, and things about Edelgard, and like these are all things that like you're missing context for unless you play presumably all 4 routes, which is like a massive time sink.
It's a lot of content, but it's also asking a lot of the player.
Yeah.
But like, so I did the Black Eagles route first, and then I did the church route second, and I didn't do any of the other ones beyond that.
But now, see, Steve, I'm really curious because like I did Blue Lions first, and people fucking love Edelgard. People fucking hate her.
She did nothing wrong, so.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah. So that's kind of interesting to me in playing those 2 routes specifically, because like, man, if you do the church route, you really don't see how fucking evil the church is. Like, the Black Eagles route feels to me, like, it's weird because it's the shortest route and feels incomplete, like they ran out of time to completely fill that one out, but it also feels like that is the core of the true story that is going on here, about how fucking awful the church is and the people who are involved with it. And you don't really get that with the other routes. So
yeah, well, because in Blue Lions, Edelgard is like almost like, I don't want to say she's like a completely unsympathetic villain, but like it's pretty clear based on the way that she's framed in Blue Lions in particular that like her ends don't justify her means, like in the slightest. Like it, so the people that come out and they're like, oh, Edelgard did nothing wrong, it's like I have to wonder, it's like, did we play the same game? Because like,
when she betrays the church and you see what the church is, then her actions become completely justifiable.
I mean, I've done the church route, and it's like,
But the church route is the one that frames the church in the most positive light.
Yeah, well, I haven't done Black Eagles yet, but
Black Eagles is the one where you get the truth of the church.
Right. So like, the Black Eagles route spins off from church route, so Black Eagles is what I have to do next. But because I saved at the point right before they like diverge, so like that should be like pretty easy for me. But
well, it's like there's not one true story. It's just like you're kind of like picking and choosing what parts from each story make most sense to you.
Yeah, I mean that to me is interesting, but it's also like, this game is gonna take forever if I want to know like everything's that's gonna fucking go on, because like I don't even know also, what the fuck is in Golden Deer.
I felt satisfied with the amount that I did. Like, even though I didn't do Golden Deers or Blue Lions.
Everyone says do Golden Deer last, so it's like,
well, because they're neutral. They're the least interesting.
Right.
Can you imagine being the kind of person who picks Gold Eagles first?
Golden Deer.
Whatever.
I think it's just people who wanted to fuck Claude. That was the reason why they.
But you can't even fuck him.
I know you can't.
Wait, you can't fuck him even if you choose like a female character?
No, if you choose a female character, you can. I think if you choose a male character, you can't. Oh, if you choose, I think there are only like two male characters that you can pick as the, male on male.
I think
option.
they added more, but in the base game, yeah.
But there are like 6 girls that you can get with if you choose a girl. Like I married Mercedes on my first one.
Yeah, you did. Mercedes Bros.
The time skip ruined her. I'm sorry to say.
Yeah.
She cut her hair, man.
She looks good. So I only played one route, the true route, the one true route.
Blue Lions.
The Blue Lions route. And I just want to add, I barely recruited anybody. I used all of my students in every battle, and I was a good teacher.
So that was a big revelation to me, is how much I enjoyed being a teacher in this game.
Right. It really fills a void that's missing in my real life.
But just like as simple as that classroom stuff is, it was kind of really compelling. Just to be able to help these kids level up and become warriors who
do
would go
I
out and kill
reach
each other
these
later on.
kids? But having only done one route, I was very, very satisfied with the game. Like, I recognize that I don't have the whole picture as far as the plot is concerned, but just as a package, a game you play once, the game is pretty satisfying. The fact that it has more to go through if you want to is pretty great. But it's some games with multiple routes. It's like, maybe it's only Sonic Adventure, but it's like I got to play all of them just to get anything worth of a full game here. But no, just maybe with the exception of Edelgard's route, which I believe is shorter, so I don't know. But all of the individual routes are complete games, which is nice. Mm-hmm. You could say that Three Houses did not fall victim to the Sonic Adventure issue.
That wasn't an issue in Sonic Adventure.
Yes, it was.
No, it wasn't.
What, you think, oh, I'm just going to play Sonic's story and I feel like I got my money's worth?
No, I thought you were saying it was an issue that you had to play through all those stories.
It was an issue that you had to play through them to get your money's worth. Whereas in this game, if you only play through one route, you do get your money's worth.
That's fair. Yeah, I do agree with that, yeah. All right, we're on the same page. Thank you, Sensei.
All right, there you go.
Hey, Vivi.
All right, let's take another break, and when we come back, we'll talk about the other half of the game we still have to get through.